We're going to turn now to the future Queen consort, Camilla. She's given a rare interview about her life with Prince Charles and how she has learned to cope with criticism after decades in the spotlight.
Tom Parker Bowles sharing rare insight into her private life just ahead of the coronation.
The entire monarchy is trembling from the aftershocks, even though it happened within royal walls. Recently, Queen Camilla was permanently barred from one of the most revered royal privileges, and King Charles did not make the choice. Prince William was the one. According to sources, it all started after Camilla and Princess Catherine had a startling, intimate, and intensely emotional confrontation that nobody, not even Charles, could stop. According to people close to the royal household, this was more than just a disagreement. Years of building tension culminated in a single, explosive moment, resulting in a full-fledged clash.
If you look at the coronation footage, as the King and Queen leave the thrones and head for the exit of Westminster Abbey on the coronation Saturday,
the royal staff was in disbelief. Some even shed tears. And Prince William made a choice that would permanently alter the royal family, after learning what Camilla had said to his wife behind closed doors. What specific statement did Camilla make to Catherine that went too far? What is the reason for Prince William's decision to bar the Queen herself from a centuries-old royal position? This isn't just family drama. Don't get me wrong. At the core of the monarchy is a change in power. Insiders also claim that William is entering his destiny as king for the first time. With rage, protection, and an obvious message: do not disobey my wife. Even Princess Anne and Prince Edward may be supporting William in what is reportedly a serious internal royal conflict, despite King Charles's shock, according to sources. As we uncover the truth about the royal altercation, the subsequent lifetime ban, and how this one incident may have shaped King William and Queen Catherine's future reign, be sure to tune in and watch through to the very end. Could this be the start of Camilla's decline as a monarch? Or perhaps the opening salvo of a larger royal conflict? Please share your thoughts in the comments section below. Also, remember to subscribe for more exclusive royal tidbits. William draws an unbreakable line. Inside Clarence House, what appeared to be another strategy meeting abruptly exploded. A fiery exchange ultimately erupted from decades of simmering slights, including Kate's cool disregard for gossip and Camilla's eye rolls at middle-class Middleton comments. Royal aides dispersed like startled sparrows, doors shook, and words bounced down marble halls. The monarchy had crossed a line it would never be able to uncross. Camilla's cheeks were red, and Catherine's mascara was smudged by the time the hush returned. Prince William was more enraged than ever after receiving the news than he had ever been during a crisis briefing. All his life, he had been obedient to the rules. But this was his wife, the mother of his children. He announced an immediate, permanent embargo. No engagements, no balcony waves, no private Sunday roasts where Camilla might even come into contact with the Wales family. In a behind-closed-door order that even seasoned courtiers were taken aback by. Until recently, no senior royal has ever been frozen out for personal reasons. Other royals have been discredited for money or wrongdoing. The decree struck Camilla like a guillotine. The lady who worked her way up from tabloid villain to queen consort was abruptly banished from the same limelight she had battled to earn. She reportedly paces the palace's golden hallways by herself, angry at the prohibition, but hurt that Charles was unable to reverse it without destroying his already shaky relationship with his oldest son. King Charles must choose between preserving trust with the successor he has raised since birth, or defending the spouse who supported him through scandal, a struggle that only a father of grown children can understand. Every attempt to make amends with Camilla runs the danger of making William even more irate. Camilla feels deceived by any suggestion of supporting William. The king hasn't slept through the night since the battle, according to courtiers. Although Catherine appears to be composed and head high during ribbon cuttings and charity visits, Her quiet restraint speaks more than any news release. The public's perception continues to shift in her favor. Each Instagram video of her welcoming students stands in stark contrast to rumors of Camilla's scathing comments. Kate wins hearts in silence. Staff rush behind velvet curtains to rearrange processions, rewrite seating plans, and stagger arrivals so the two women never meet. Foreign dignitaries take note of cold absences, and every missed handshake makes tabloids salivate. The House of Windsor has survived abdications, divorces, and even the Andrew affair, but its greatest test may yet come from a personal Cold War between its two most senior female members. One thing is certain in this new era: the space where Camilla used to stand will tell its own resounding story the next time the royal balcony fills for a triumphal wave. Catherine's private collapse, public resolve. Catherine remained dedicated to duty rather than defeat for over 10 years. While newspapers lauded her composure, those close to her noticed the subtle strain, the additional practice before each walkabout, the staff phone calls at midnight to confirm children's privacy procedures, and the hushed admonition to leave no space for drama. Every small choice was influenced by an implicit agreement. Queen Camilla's consent was never assured, and every mistake may be used against you. Catherine chose to ignore the criticism, concentrate on early childhood programs, and let the public's love speak for itself. Overnight, Camilla's authority grew when Charles took power in September 2022. Courtiers observed as well-known individuals. Granddaughter Eliza Lopes sitting on a balcony there, Tom Parker Bowles at a palace dinner here, snuck into hitherto Windsor-only communities. The newly appointed Queen Consort promoted a more expansive interpretation of the term royal family, contending that warmth and relatability are essential to contemporary monarchy. Another goal, as perceived by traditionalists, was to establish a rival dynasty that would surpass the Wales brood in terms of future coverage and ceremonial hierarchy. Suddenly, reputable royal reporters wrote think pieces calling Camilla the monarchy's real-world compass and implying that people were unimpressed by Catherine's polished perfection. The turn seemed well-planned. Clear enough that phones at Kensington Palace lighted up within minutes of each publication, yet nuanced enough to allow for plausible deniability. As internet commentators defended the Princess of Wales, hashtags like #Queen of common sense briefly gained popularity before fading. Aides inside the palace chalked it up as a warning shot. If pushed, Camilla's staff may distort the story. The goal of the now famous strategy meeting was to finalize a 12-month schedule of engagements, which included joint hospital visits in between, a Commonwealth trip in the fall, and Japan in the spring. The atmosphere? Polite but tense. While Catherine took pencil notes, William painstakingly checked each page. Camilla engaged in conversation, while Charles flipped through briefing packets. The moment Camilla whispered, "Do we need Catherine there?" the room seemed cold. "People come to see the king, not a fashion show," was her follow-up, and it hit like shattered glass. The nuclear option was to call out Diana's name in that room. The shock of Camilla's analogy, as Diana was unabated despite decades of efforts at peace, public repentance, and meticulously produced photos. Sucking gasps, pens froze in midair. Everyone in attendance was aware of the protocol. Diana is never mentioned in criticism or front of her oldest son, and only in remembrance. Catherine's calm, shaky, conclusive response, "That woman will never speak to me again." Her leaving created a shock-filled void. With a low but deadly voice, William filled it in 2 strides. Only a few details are remembered by witnesses. Crossed a line. Never again. Mother's memory. But the significance was clear. The heir to the throne was establishing a permanent border. Staff at Kensington Palace received clear instructions in a matter of hours. Take Camilla off of any itinerary that has the Waleses on it. No balconies, charity patronages, or shared motorcades, with immediate effect, and no sunset clause. The command carried the weight of William's future crown and the court of public opinion, despite not being a formal decree, no press release or mention in the Westminster Gazette. Event coordinators rushed. Before crystal place cards could be engraved, state banquet seating arrangements were redrawn, and joint walkabouts were divided into staggered appearances. The repercussions were compared by palace veterans to 1992's Annus Horribilis, but it was colder and quieter. Monarchists worried. What message does it convey to a country already doubting hereditary power if the two foremost royal women cannot share a stage? Republican critics felt blood. Once she was back at Kensington, the princess gave herself permission to cry. Not tears of weakness, but tears of weariness. She confirmed the nursery visit for next week over the phone with her early childhood foundation 5 minutes later. Courtiers were reminded by her display of fortitude why she rarely loses the favor of the public. Catherine takes the hit and then puts forth even more effort. The king had to strike a balance between constitutional obligation and paternal instinct. If he takes away Camilla's influence, he runs the risk of making the same mistakes he did in the 1990s. If he confronts William, he seems to penalize loyalty to Diana's memory. Charles has decided on stasis for the time being, different calendars, separate courts, in the hopes that time will soften the edges of a conflict that is already part of Windsor legend. 48 hours. That shook the firm. The issue started as a series of unanswered texts rather than a front-page headline. Charles attempted WhatsApp messages, phone calls, and even the palace's secure system, but William's responses were either silent or scathing one-liners. The king realized right away that something much more serious than a typical family argument had been crossed. After decades of perfecting compromise, a king came to the abrupt realization that diplomacy had failed at its most personal level. The rift was discovered by royal reporters over 2 sleep-deprived news rounds. Both tabloids and broadsheets cried out, "William exiles Camilla!" By the second daybreak, every royal watcher's phone was pinging with digital alerts, and television tickers repeated the headline. Public pity was directed at the heir and his spouse, rather than the ruling couple, and the effect was immediate and unbalanced. At once, Charles realized that no news release from Buckingham Palace could reverse the narrative momentum that had shifted dramatically in favor of the Waleses. Social media exploded as the royal gates stood motionless and stately. Alongside the hashtag #ProtectCatherine, memes showing Catherine wearing an unseen coat of armor became popular. Within hours, the cheekier hashtag #NotMyQueen soared to the top 10 on TikTok. Historians shared in-depth analyses of royal tradition, influencers analyzed Camilla's previous blunders, and Gen Z critics dubbed William King Energy. The public opinion court met across periods and rendered a harsh decision. Few have seen William unyielding, but friends have seen him furious. Camilla would no longer be welcome at any Wales-hosted engagement, he said in a secluded drawing room at Kensington Palace. No sunset clause, no talks. It wasn't a tantrum. It was deliberate shock therapy. The future king demonstrated that allegiance to Catherine was more important than reverence for status by acting rather than arguing. Despite not speaking louder, Catherine's presence controlled the space. She was polite but uncompromising when Charles invoked her famous diplomacy in the hopes that she would change her husband's position. Later, aides said that it was the first time they had witnessed the monarch and heir seem to refocus on her unspoken determination. The princess went from being a well-liked consort to an essential member of the crown at that same moment. The stakes were existential for Charles. His campaign had been Camilla's protracted, agonizing path to public acceptance. Evidence that love could triumph over scandal. He saw that triumph go now. Daily routines fell apart. Working meals were canceled. Early morning walks were abandoned, and paperwork was returned in scribbles of red. The king was described by courtiers as moving through the palace like a guy who had lost his compass. Camilla saw the exile as betrayal on the part of Catherine, William, and most scathingly, her husband's inaction. She charged Charles with allowing Diana's echo to survive into the following generation. She paced, made demands, and considered media counteroffensives in secret. The official hush, however, was loud beyond those walls, and that silence heightened her annoyance more than any headline could. The tension erupted when Charles eventually managed to meet William in person. William spoke solely of respect denied to his wife and his mother's memory, while Charles talked of unity, optics, and constitutional responsibility. "There is no going back from that," the heir said, as if his words were unchangeable decrees. It was evident that authority had changed at the end of the meeting. Even while the father's head still held the crown, the son now had moral leverage. During Charles' rule, the working royals have been streamlined, symbolism has been updated, and the charity focus has been expanded. The conflict between Camilla and Catherine revealed the project's continued fragility. Every new project runs the risk of failing if the Waleses aren't actively promoting the brand. A contemporary monarchy is only as strong as its most charismatic emissaries, and at the moment, those emissaries have painted a red line that the Queen Consort is unable to cross. Not only has Camilla lost her anger, but she is no longer near the heart of future power. Public devotion now revolves around William and Catherine, who are more than just the glitzy next big thing. Charles understands this somber math. The monarchy's relevance might rapidly decline if the Waleses back off. The sovereign is thus forced to defend his marriage and his legacy, two beleaguered fronts, knowing that he may still have to decide which will endure. A lifetime's dream in peril. For almost 75 years, Charles's only ambition was to become king or queen. But when the crown was eventually placed on his head, he realized that Camilla, the lady he had worked so hard to legitimize, now posed a challenge to the very foundation of his rule. The love story that had previously made him more relatable now ran the risk of throwing the monarchy into a full-blown identity crisis, which was a sad irony. Charles's renowned eloquence diminished behind golden doors. Courtiers observed the once talkative monarch withdrawing into protracted, reflective silences as he balanced his wife's devotion with the House of Windsor's continued existence. What caused the firestorm to start? A brief leak of a fight between Princess Catherine and Queen Camilla, purportedly with a scathing allusion to Diana, made its way through the palace hallways and directly into the tabloids. A single unguarded word has the power to destroy decades of meticulously maintained harmony in an institution that is infused with ritual. Horrified by what they had heard, staff members who had hitherto avoided Camilla's moods abruptly compared encrypted notes. Half gossip, half unfiltered emotion, the narrative had already transformed into a symbol by AM the following day. The wronged daughters of Diana versus the woman who replaced her. Public opinion is the lifeblood of modern monarchs, and the internet rose to power at an astonishing rate. Former Twitter was inundated with jokes, side-by-side pictures of Diana and Catherine, and scathing threads analyzing Camilla's every previous blunder under the hashtags #Stand with Kate and @Our Future Queen. In less than 12 hours, a post that stated, "First they hurt Diana, now they target Kate, never again," was reshared over 150,000 times, turning into a virtual rallying cry. Overnight, Camilla's favorability indicators fell to levels not seen since the 1990s, while Catherine's approval skyrocketed from admirable to untouchable. With clinical accuracy, fleet-footed polling firms recorded the mood swing. Within 48 hours of the leak, a rapid YouGov survey revealed that 82% of respondents supported William's choice to bar Camilla from attending Wales family events. Even more startling is the fact that, following the late Queen Elizabeth II, 9 out of 10 respondents now ranked Catherine as the most trustworthy royal. Those figures were more of a shock to the strategists in Buckingham Palace. Legitimacy, which had once been Camilla's weak point, had turned into a fatal wound. Alliances inside the royal hive shifted at a dizzying rate. Once cautiously handling Camilla's temper, private secretaries suddenly flocked to the Wales household, lauding Catherine as the stabilizing force of the crown. Equerries redirected briefing documents, and long-tenured footmen silently rearranged seating charts. As evidence that power in the palace is determined not only by title, but also by who commands unspoken allegiance, one seasoned aide admitted that staff morale skyrocketed the moment Camilla's schedule became less demanding. Catherine's answer was a blatantly cunning move. The public composed its love letter while she remained silent. She started a mental health campaign, went to a children's cancer hospital, bent down to tie a toddler's shoe, and left every event with fans yelling her name. When Camilla canceled, Catherine committed. When Camilla sulked, Catherine smiled. The contrast could not have been more pronounced. She proved the fundamental royal lesson that visibility is destiny without saying a single word of retaliation. The Queen Consort gave the official excuses of diary realignments and health fatigue. According to unofficial rumors, every outing could result in banners and jeers. Streaming services cued documentaries called The Other Woman Revisited, while late-night comedians dug up old headlines about Diana. Once praised as Charles's reassuring confidant, Camilla now had to deal with the cold of insignificance, a psychological rather than a physical exile. Watching a long-time desire erode in real time is one of the most painful situations. No amount of chivalry can stand up to a populace that has turned against Charles, who stood up for Camilla through marital scandal, constitutional challenges, and the world's most ruthless press. The king is described by friends as pacing the palace's picture gallery after midnight, divided between his nearly priestly need to protect the monarchy for William and his marital loyalty. He was terrified that by supporting Camilla, he would undermine the crown he had worked so hard to acquire. The monarchy used bloodlines to exercise power for generations, but in the 21st century, brand equity took the place of blood. At this point, the love is flowing in William and Catherine's direction. Undermining that current would be a risk to the monarchy's continued relevance in a time of constant scrutiny. In that regard, William's alleged decree, "Access denied to my wife and kids," was more of a calculated barrier safeguarding the institution's future appeal than a family dispute. No declaration, no court order, just a graceful omission. Camilla stopped being invited to activities about Wales. She lost contact with George, Charlotte, and Louis, and her influence on palace communications diminished. The message was louder than a balcony wave, yet everyone heeded their advice. Cross Catherine at your own risk. The popular court's decision, which the heir apparent ratified, guarantees Camilla's continued status as queen in name, but as a minor player in reality. Once written off as too middle class by snooty courtiers, Catherine of Wales today stands on a pedestal created by compassion, self-control, and unwavering public loyalty. Many Britons see parallels to Diana in her serene elegance, but without the upheaval and institutional savvy. She may command affection without the crown, because the affection quickly recreates the crown in her likeness. An important turning point has been reached by the House of Windsor. The gravitational center has moved, but Charles is still in charge and Camilla is still on his side. The narrative arc of the monarchy is now shaped by William and Catherine, supported by a public that has deliberately selected its champions. The monarch who once moved heaven and earth to justify his marriage now has to watch as the power he had long desired softly but unmistakably shifts to the following generation. Behind the scenes, it's conflict, even though the crown may dazzle. Is this the start of a royal reckoning, or the end of Camilla's influence? Comment below and tell us if William made the correct decision. Will Catherine eventually occupy her proper position? Remember to subscribe to our channel for more royal surprises.